Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be talking about a subject that always will have great debate and controversy, and people will be talking about this constantly. It's a perpetual argument, but I don't attempt to resolve it with this video, but merely voicing my opinion on it. Now, the greatest athlete ever is what I'm going to be talking about. In my opinion, I believe the greatest athlete ever was someone by the name of George Herman Ruth. Many of you may have heard of him. Many of you probably didn't see him. I mean, many of you I know didn't see him based on the time when he retired and when he started his MLB career. Well, Babe Ruth, we know, most of you know he has 714 home runs. That's what he hit all time. He's still third all time on the all-time home run list. He still holds a Major League Baseball record for slugging percentage with .690. He also still holds the record for on-base percentage and slugging average combined at 1.16. Babe Ruth, in my opinion, was a transcendent talent. I mean, you look at other athletes, there's many dominant athletes. You can make an argument for a multitude of them. But Babe Ruth came along at a time, it was the country, I mean, for part of his career anyway, the United States was in a depression state, and at times when many things seemed maybe oppressive and negative, he really, I think, he helped revitalize maybe perhaps the United States in this period. We look at Babe Ruth now. Let's look at a couple other players in Major League Baseball history first. Now we look at someone by the name of Hank Aaron. Well, Hank Aaron, don't get me wrong, he hit more career home runs than the Bambino did. I understand that. But Hank Aaron took more at-bats to get to 714. And also, with Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth, well, Babe Ruth averaged one home run in every 14.88 plate appearances. Hank Aaron averaged a home run once in every 18.46 plate appearances. So look at that. And also, Babe Ruth is right now, he's still second all-time in RBIs total, 2,214. When Babe Ruth retired, he had more than double the amount of home runs of the player who was second in home runs at the time. Now here's first comparison we're going to go to. Well, you may have heard of somebody by the name of Michael Jordan as well. Now, Michael Jordan is regarded, he's self-proclaimed best NBA player of all time. Now, well, Michael Jordan may be irrebuttably the greatest NBA player of all time, but was he the greatest athlete of all time? I think that's a little dubious. I think what it is a lot of people want to think Michael Jordan is the best athlete ever because they want to say that I saw Michael Jordan, I witnessed him, I was somebody that watched Michael Jordan play. And I think a lot of people are in a hurry to vote a contemporary athlete as somebody as the greatest, and could often be oblivious or overlook great athletes of yesteryear who might have been forgotten by people, or really some people may not have really studied on them enough or been very cognizant of what they accomplished. Now, I don't take anything away from Michael Jordan. An argument could be made that he was the greatest athlete of all time. But when Michael Jordan retired, he wasn't even tops in points scored. In Babe Ruth, as I stated before, he had more than double the amount of home runs of the person that was in second place when Babe Ruth retired. So that's something to look at as far as when we're analyzing the greatest athlete and ascertaining who is the greatest athlete of all time. Now, another person, okay, we can look at someone by the name of Muhammad Ali, formerly known as Cassius Clay. Well, Muhammad Ali, I mean, he just devastated opponents. He was a very dominant fighter, very flamboyant. and he inspired a whole culture and generation. I believe, I understand, an argument may be made for Muhammad Ali as the greatest athlete of all time, but like Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, basically, he proclaimed himself as the greatest. Now, I think there can be some debate and controversy over as to whether Muhammad Ali was even the greatest boxer or not, because we look at someone by the name of Lennox Lewis. Now, Lennox Lewis, in contrast to Ali, was very reticent, very humble. He just basically let his fist do the talking. Lennox Lewis, when he retired, he compiled a 41-2-1 record. And he beat the people he was supposed to beat. Now, people might have a knock on Lennox Lewis to some degree and say, well, maybe he didn't have the competition as Ali did. That's not Lennox Lewis's fault, though. That's another thing to look at. And also, some of you may have been around to see this. There was something called the Super Fight movie, and it took place in 1970. Now, this was a fight, a simulated, computer-simulated boxing match that took place between Muhammad Ali and Rocky Marciano. Many of you may know Rocky Marciano retired unblemished, undefeated. In the super fight, in this simulated computer fight, Marciano defeated Muhammad Ali. So I think that's enough to put a little asterisk by that greatest over Muhammad Ali, even as far as a boxer goes. So another athlete to look at when we're talking about perhaps the greatest athlete of all time was someone named Jim Thorpe. Now, Jim Thorpe, as many of you may know, he was unequivocally the most versatile athlete of all time, very multifaceted, multi-talented. He was an Olympic gold medalist. He played pro baseball and pro football. So he was somebody to really consider as far as the versatility goes. But just because somebody can play manifold sports, I don't think it necessarily makes him the greatest athlete ever. When I look at also, there's somebody else that people talk about too, as far as the greatest, say the greatest baseball player of all time. I saw something online, and it was published today. It seemed like somebody was sticking up for Barry Bonds. Now, Barry Bonds, okay, he could state whatever, that he wasn't cognizant or whatever, aware if he was putting something on him that was some performance enhancing substance. But the fact that it's basically been proven that he put something on him that made like a bomb or something, I believe, that could give a propensity to increase your performance on the baseball playing field. Even if he states he didn't know what it was when he put on, he thought it was something else, it still wouldn't change the fact that he had some way that he was enhancing his chances to hit more home runs and have greater power numbers. Even if we gave him the benefit of the doubt and he was doing this inadvertently, the point is it's going to be an asterisk by Barry Bonds, and his totals stats will always be tainted, in my opinion. And even if we take that out of the equation, Barry Bonds may be the home run king all time. As far as the career amount goes, Barry Bonds has 762 home runs all time. However, he averaged one home run in every 16.54 plate appearances. In Babe Ruth, as I stated before, he hit one home run for every 14.88 plate appearances. So that's superior, that ratio, to Aaron and Bonds. So those are some things to consider when we're looking at the greatest athlete of all time, and really, in Babe Ruth being as transcendent as he was, revitalizing, I think, a country, rejuvenating a country, maybe not single-handedly, but I think pretty close to it. Also, could you imagine, Babe Ruth was not exactly the prototypical athlete as far as the physique goes. I mean, you look at Babe Ruth when he played, and he had a kind of a rotund build, a round visage. He was not somebody that really epitomized as far as an athletic build. He may have actually been out of shape. Could you imagine if he was like working out or doing something to make him, as far as physically lifting weights, augmenting his power and strength, what he could have done? He was even a pitcher, as many of you know, for like 10 seasons. At least he pitched part of each of 10 different MLB seasons. How many could he have hit if he wasn't a pitcher? How many home runs would he have had? There was also something where he would have hit at least 50 more home runs in a career if a rule change pertaining to home runs was implemented at the start of his career or before the start of his career, as opposed to toward the end of it. So, I mean, we're looking at, I think, at least 800 career home runs for Babe Ruth. And if he had that, he still would have been #1 all time. And I believe, as far as the average of home runs per plate appearances, still would have been #1 in that as well. And Babe Ruth, in my mind, is unequivocally, irrebuttably the greatest athlete that ever lived, and it just would be very hard for me to waver from that. And a lot of it is attributed to what he did during a period where people were not really working out like they do now vigorously, and all the high-tech weightlifting equipment. And that's really pretty much it as far as my take on the greatest athlete ever. And people, this is Edwin Learnard, and until next time, people, stay well.